one of the trends for 2024 is an extension of what we've seen. HR is not about HR. It's not about staffing, training, compensation, communication, diversity. HR is about helping a company succeed in the marketplace. We've identified four, and they're themes, not specific programs. Number one, I've already talked about outside in.
Hi, you are watching SightsIn Plus, and this is Romesh Srivastava. Please to subscribe the channel for the HR news, for the HR updates, and conversation with the top-notch CHROs, thought leaders, and business heads. Today, we are going to discuss about the HR challenges, and then we will discuss what are the HR trends and priorities for the coming year, 2024. And today, I'm really excited and feeling privileged to have the world-renowned thought leader and the father of modern HR, Mr. Dave Ulrich. Dave is currently the professor at Rogers School of Business at University of Michigan, and he's also the partner at RBL Group. Welcome, Dave.
Romesh, what a privilege to be with you. I have so enjoyed SightsIn Plus. You always have great insights. You have great observations and an ability to generate and generalize good ideas. Thank you.
Dave, I'm really excited to have the conversation with you. And recently, if we can see we can recap the 2023. So we have seen a lot of buzzwords in 2023, like you can say the moonlighting, like quiet quitting, like quiet hiring us, and so forth. We are also entering into another era, that is the post-pandemic era now. So there's a change in work environment. How do you see that? What are going to be the HR challenges for the coming year, 2024?
You know, the challenges, well, first of all, I want to say, Romesh, it's just a privilege to be with you. And sometimes one of the challenges is to stay connected personally, even at a distance. So I want to welcome people into my office. I'm in the United States where I live, and this is my office. Welcome. And Romesh, I assume we're also in your office. So you welcome us into your office, and we welcome ourselves into each other's lives. Some of the challenges in the context we've seen. We live with economic uncertainty. We live with technological advances, AI, technology of all sorts just dominating. We live with political ambiguity. Whatever country we're in, we live with political things. We live with demographic changes. We live with the world going through a whole series of change, VUCA, whatever you want to call it, that we've never seen. I think the HR challenges are still around three things. How do we manage our people? How do we make sure that our workforce is good? Second, and I talk about people with my fingers, those are the people, the talent in your organization. The fifth is how do we manage our organization, our culture, our systems, our workplace? Third is how do we manage our leadership? How do we build great leadership? Those three domains of HR, we call human capability, are going through enormous change. Are we getting the right people, right job, right place, right skills with multiple generations in the workforce? Are we getting the right capabilities, human capability, the culture, the systems, innovation, agility, etc.? And are we managing leadership well? Those seem to be the responses to the context in which we live. And I think we'll see that HR, if we manage talent, organization, and leadership, becomes even more critical in the business setting.
Yeah, absolutely. You rightly pointed out the three challenges. I think that is the manage the people. How do you manage the people, and the organizational cultural some challenges that may be a leadership development. I think you have pointed out these 3 points. So if you look at the cultural part, organizational cultural part, so sometime we feel that it is squeezed right now. The organizational culture is squeezed right now, and we see a lot of conflict between the leadership and the expectations of the employee currently. The line managers, they also under pressure. The HR managers, they are also under pressure right now because a lot of companies, they are calling back their employees to work for the 5 day a week, maybe 3 day a week, and maybe the employees, they are not feeling comfortable because they're not finding the right reason. What is the right reason why the companies are calling back to us? when we are comfortable working from the home, or we are comfortable to working from anywhere, so we are also maintaining the the privacy. We are also giving a lot of productivity. If you look at 2023, so we have seen there's a one report, and according to this report, the productivity has gone up in 2023. There's also cost reduction in 2023. Efficiency has also gone up. Then what is the reason why the organizations are calling up? Why they're asking to work from the office? So there is some conflict as of now between the leaders and the employees. How do you see what is the cultural change as of now, and how the HR leaders can work on this?
You know, what I've seen, Ramesh, in your question is you have such a very broad set of questions. There's about 5 questions in there. Let me start with a very simple principle. One of the trends for 2024 is an extension of what we've seen. HR is not about HR. It's not about staffing, training, compensation, communication, diversity. HR is about helping a company succeed in the marketplace. And so the goal of HR is not about doing new HR practices, and there'll be new ones coming: quiet quitting, working at home, skill-based organization. But the goal of all those practices is to help our organization succeed in the marketplace. We've talked about that for a few years. For us, that premise is so critical, because when I work with HR people, I love to ask them the question when I'm doing a workshop. They have a name tent, and I say, turn your name tent over. What's the biggest challenge you face in your job today? And they often write down hiring good people, compensation, culture, leadership, the issues you just talked about. And my comment is, no, the biggest challenge you have today is to help your company succeed in a marketplace that's changing. Because if a company doesn't succeed in the marketplace, there is no workplace. I've worked with a lot of companies who had great HR practices, but they weren't focused on the marketplace, and they've gone broke. So what I say to people, write down the challenge you have in your job today. Culture. You talked about culture. I want to create a new culture. It's a hot topic. Put 2 words behind it. I want to create a new culture so that my customers have a better experience, so that my investors are willing to invest, so that my communities see us as a good place to work. When we can connect what we do inside the company to outside, we begin to create a virtuous cycle that HR is not about HR, it's helping a company succeed. Final example, if you're an HR professional, you go to a business meeting with data and evidence and analytics. Here's the career development practice. Here's the succession planning practice. Here's the engagement practice. My comment is, don't go there. When you come to that business meeting, start by saying, what does our business need to succeed? I talked to an HR professional this week, and I love to talk to him. Or an HR, he was the head of HR for a big company. I won't name it because I didn't get his approval. Actually, there were 3. I talked to the first 2. What's your biggest challenge? One woman said, hiring good people. Another woman said, making sure that we retain good people. And when I went to him, he said, our company is losing market share. Our products and services are not as innovative as they should be. My challenge is to stop that trend. Woo! Suddenly I've got an HR person who's not about HR. He's about the business. And that's the agenda that I hope we can begin to get to. Culture is not who we are. It's who we are as defined by our customer. And that's one of the trends that I think we're going to see get pushed even more.
I tried to deep dive on this. This HR is not for the HR. So, but now if you look at some trends also, generative AI, it is also booming right now. And in 2023, we have seen a lot of application apart from this Chat GPT. The Google has started the part, and a lot of companies they are coming up with the generative AI technology. How do you see what are the implications of generative AI for the human resources? Because there are a lot of use cases of this generative AI, but adoption is not at that page. Maybe we can see the adoption of the generative AI on the higher pace, on the faster pace in 2024, because a lot of HR leaders are there. They're also, feeling that if they're not adopting this technology, they may be lagging behind somehow. How do you see this?
You know, every few years, there's another topic that everybody in HR is excited about: hybrid work, skill based organization. Right now, it's AI, and every conference is dedicated to AI. I'm going to tell a quick story that my experience with AI. I have 3 children, and some of their pictures are back here. 2 of them are college professors. In January, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, they called me and said, "Dad, my job is over." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because the student's never going to write a paper again. They're going to go on Chat GPT, whatever version it is, generative AI, and they're going to turn papers in." And I thought, wow, I better find out what this is. They said, "I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I going to evaluate students?" So I got on Chat GPT, and I'm betting everybody has done this, and ask a question. My question is, in 200 words, what's the future of HR? 1 minute later, boom, there's an essay. And I read it and I went, wow, that's really good. And then I thought, my children are not only out of work, I'm out of work. You're an editor, you write articles, you're out of work. And then I read it again. And there's 2 things I learned about ChatGPT that I think will affect our future. Number one, what it does is it goes back into the codus of data. I was talking to somebody at Amazon this week. We work with 1 billion words. They now can use ChatGPT to moderate 1 trillion words. So it looks at 1 trillion words and how they fit together. That's just unbelievable. It's more than I can even begin to conceive. And they put together an essay, but all they can do is look backwards. So I read the essay again and I went, that's what Linda Grattan said. That's what was said by this person. That's what I said. It looked at the future of HR by looking backwards. It didn't create what's next because that's not what it does. It looks back and synthesizes data. What does that mean in HR? I want to do a job description for a salesperson selling pharmaceutical products. Okay, that's a good question. What has been the skill set for that person in the past? Generative AI in less than a minute will tell me the skills, but it will not tell me the skills necessary for that job in my company in the future. Let me say that again. Generative AI summarizes what's been done. It cannot yet predict what we don't know. So I wrote an essay, "What's the future of HR?" that was not what I'd written before. I hope you'll publish it someday. So then it will become part of the Chat GPT. That's number one. Artificial AI does a great job summarizing what's been done. It does not yet know how to anticipate and predict with confidence what will happen. Number two, it doesn't have the ability to separate information in a rigorous way. Again, an example. You've been willing to post some of our research. We did studies of HR skills with 28,000 people. Big database, includes people from India, Latin America, North America, Europe. Big database, 28,000 people with pretty good research. I bet you've had, and I've had, a LinkedIn request. I have a survey on LinkedIn. Would you fill out these questions? And somebody has 30 friends and their friends fill out the questions and they post the research. AI doesn't yet distinguish those 2 research studies. To be honest, the 30 people is not the same as 28,000. And so we've got to be careful judging the quality of what the AI is giving us. So those are my caveats. I think artificial intelligence summarizes the past without great discretion. I've been talking lately about we need informed intelligence that gives information that will help us shape our future. I love AI. It's going to be, right now it's popular. It's like hybrid work was popular. Skill-based organization was popular. We see these trends in HR, team-based organization, anti-bureaucracy. I think we're going to see AI woven into what we do work every day. It's going to be a part of who we are. It's going to be a part of our work, and it will be helpful because it will summarize the past and give us a platform for what we can do to create the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dave, we did a small survey and we discussed about the work-life balance, how this priority will remain the same like previous year, 2022 or 2023, there would be a shift. So the survey talks about when the people are going to join the new company. So if we look the results in 2022 or 2021, so work-life balance, that was on the top priority. That was on the top preference. Now again, there's a shift that compensation and benefit that has gone up. That is on the top priority right now, and well-being is on the third or fourth ladder as of now. How do you see this shift in the preference of when we talk about work-life balance of well-being kind of?
Well, let me ask you. You've done the survey, you've seen the results, you've thought about it. What do you think? What do you think that message is? I'm going to reverse interview for just a moment because I love your opinion. What would you say? And then I'll share my view of that. What would
I
you
think
say?
obviously as the situation gets changed, the preferences and priorities get changed. So now we are not into the pandemic era; we are post-pandemic era. So again, we are working on normal conditions as we were working in a pre-pandemic era. So that time the compensation and benefit that was on the priority, and again that as if the same. This is the reason
Yes.
I think so.
You know, what I see that pandemic taught me and us, and again, I'll try to anchor this with a very personal experience. We have 3 children. Each of them managed the pandemic differently. Our daughter, one of our daughters, quit her job and she homeschooled her children. Another son stayed at work. He went to work every day and his wife stayed home with his children. Our other daughter, she and her husband both took part-time jobs so they could share. What you see is incredible personalization. And 3 people with similar skills managed it differently. I think what the pandemic taught us and what AI enables us to do is to personalize work. For some, compensation is going to be a big issue. For some, work-life balance will be an issue. For others, opportunity for impact and learning and growth will be an issue. For others, flexible schedules will be an issue. I think coming out of the pandemic era, that ability to personalize work will continue to be critical. And the personalization, I think, and we're trying to explore this, we're still trying to learn, will be around what motivates and drives you. What are your expectations in an honest discussion? So for you, Romesh, and for me, Dave, it may be a little different, but there are some common principles we think that drive that employee expectation going forward. The work I've been trying to build on, and I'm trying to explore this because I don't want it to be put in AI book yet because I want to create it. There's a very, very famous psychologist named Martin Seligman, Seligman. He's the father of positive psychology. He's done work around learned helplessness, that people often feel in bureaucratic settings helpless. His latest work is around hopefulness. I think personalization is around helping every employee be hopeful at work. Can I find hope for what matters for me? And that may vary by me. At my life stage, hope is not staying home with children. We don't have children at home. Hope is having an impact with ideas through work that you do with me and others. I think our job in companies as HR professionals is to help people personalize their work by helping people have hope from the work that they do. Now, I could go deeper on that, but that's where I think we're going to begin to see. For some, compensation is a key. And I think the next generation, often Gen Z or Gen Alpha, the new generations coming into the workforce, money's an issue. For some of us, we are kind of locked into our compensation lifestyle. Compensation for me is not the key. Autonomy for me, opportunity for me is more key. And I think we'll see that personalized setting become even more important.
Dave, I have seen one more problem in your 2023, especially with the IT and tech companies. When there was a boom in hiring, especially in IT companies during the pandemic time, they've hired the people on 100% hike, maybe 150% hike. Somehow, you can see the 200% also hike. We have seen also such cases. Now there's some disparity in the compensation part within the company. There are certain employees, those who remain loyal for the company, they did not quit, they did not change the job, they are on the lower salary part. And those who have joined the company from outside, they're having the higher packages, they're having the higher compensation. This is also a challenge, I think, for the HR leaders, how they work on this compensation disparity part. Some couple of companies, they have taken the initiative, they have started some internal upskilling program so that they can qualify the test and we can reach the compensation. We can work on this. How do you see this is a challenge for HR leaders for this year?
It's not a new challenge. Compensation has always been a challenge. I mean, it's not a new agenda. We've always had compression that you should never get hired because your bonus is going to, or your raise will be 5%, but to hire people next year, it's going to take 10%. So the theory is you should never take a job because you'll always get paid less than the person next year. For me, the message of compensation, and there's all kinds of technical issues around total rewards, two messages. One is from a colleague of mine who I learned from named Charlie Tharp, Tharp. His message is compensation is communication. Why and how we pay people sends a signal is what matters. Are we paying you for revenue? Are we paying you for profit? Are we paying you for innovation? Are we paying you for stability? And the signal that we send through the criteria of compensation communicates the things that are the most critical for us. I find that very, very helpful. That as you build your compensation program, what's the signal you want to send? Rhetorically, you can ask yourself, if I took my compensation criteria, my program, to the investor, a bank that's loaning me money, a stock owner who's buying stock, what's the message I'm sharing with people? Are we after growth? Are we after productivity? Are we after profit? Are we after innovation? How do I build a comp system that sends the right message? Second, to your point, I think people talk about compensation as cash, and there needs to be a base number. What is cash that signals that I'm important? But then it becomes total rewards. That compensation matters, but so does opportunity to grow, learning, relationships, shaping a company that has a vision. I sometimes work with people in volunteer organizations, not for profits. They're not working for money, they're working for impact and for the vision. And I think if we think of compensation, not only in terms of the economic benefit, but also the overall social and impact benefit of a total reward system, it gives us a better tool for compensation. Those are the compensation is communication, and total rewards can signal to the employee what matters most for them. Now, there's a lot of details. I'll just tell a fairly embarrassing story. I got placed on a board of directors about 20 years ago, and they ended up making me the head of the compensation committee because I'm a professor of HR. It took one board meeting before I had to hire a consultant because there's so many details in compensation. Do we use the Black-Scholes method for valuing stock? Do we use another method? Do we go on this? Do we go on that? And I quickly had to go hire a consultant who could teach me some of the tools of compensation. That's a confession. I'm a professor of this stuff, but there are details and technical aspects that I hope those of us in HR are humble enough to get advice from those who know the details.
So, Dave, based on our discussion, what we discussed about the challenges in 2024 for the HR leaders, how would you like to conclude that what are going to be the top HR trends or priorities for the HR leaders in coming year 2024?
I love the question. And at the end of every year, every LinkedIn post, every webinar, every magazine says the trends for next year. We have four, and where they come from. In the last I was trying to think this fall, since the last 4 months, I have probably been in front of 5,000 HR professionals. That's not true. Probably 10,000 with webinars where I'm not only presenting, I'm listening. We've had 2 or 3 in-depth sessions at the university where I teach, at our institute where we do a CHRO session. We've identified 4 and their themes, not specific programs. Number 1, I've already talked about outside in. If we don't create value in the marketplace with customers, investors, it's not a new idea, but it becomes ever more critical. Our work inside should be connected to the customer outside. I think that's a trend. I think we're seeing some companies begin to do that. We build a compensation program. We invite customers to do the performance review. So and we invite customers to share the resource. We outside in. Number 2, and it's what we've just talked about, We used to call it change, then we called it agility. Now I think we're beginning to call it transformation. Are we changing for the future? Are we agile? Are we changing? Are we seeing the ability to adapt, not only the business? Number three, you said it well in our first, technology and AI. And it's not just AI, it's visualization, it's gamification, it's the incredible onslaught of technology. And how do we weave that into what we do? And number four, I'll do the first three again: outside in, creating value in the marketplace, transformation, AI technology. And number four is rebuilding that employee relation, not rebuilding, renewing the employee relationship. And we talked about that. We used to, and I love evolution. We talked about employees should be motivated, then satisfied, then engaged, then committed, then experienced, then well-being. Now, on top of that build, I think we're going to see personalization around managing hope in your expectations. And when we can build that personalization, what does this mean for you? And how do we manage expectations? We see, and I'm not sure if this is true in India, some employees have false expectations. I want to work from home. I don't want to come to the office, but I want to be treated like a vice president. No, that's not going to happen. I mean, work is work, and we need to manage that. How can we give you hope in the world that we live in? And there's three, I'll go just a little deeper on that we're trying to explore. I think hope comes from managing a clear sense of efficacy. If I work hard, I'll get the outcome. If I choose not to work hard, I won't get the outcome. Number two, hope comes from optimism. Am I seeing the future? I think we've been enamored by building on the past. One of the coolest things we found, and I'm sorry to get on this, we studied leadership at the front line, because leadership matters, especially frontline. And we talked about, what does a frontline leader do that gives people a successful experience at work? Here was the finding. Number one, the differentiated leaders. When you meet with an employee, don't talk about the past as much as the future. During COVID, we said, oh, help people understand, what have you been experiencing? How has your day been? What's your past? What we're finding is that's useful, maybe 20 to 30%, 70 to 80%. Where are we going? What's the opportunity? Efficacy, optimism, and opportunity. And the third is inventiveness. Try new things that are not in chat. Invent. Do something that nobody else has done. That for us is what I think will create hope for the future. So our four things: outside in, transformation, technology, AI, and employee primacy around expectations for the future.
I think these are the four top trends, and they are resonating also with a lot of researchers. These are also resonating with a lot of there are also a lot of surveys by the world level magazines and also some survey agencies. As the time changes, we need to also upgrade our skills. So the HR leaders, they also need to upgrade their skills. So in such a changing time right now, what should be the HR competencies? What should be the HR leadership skills to perform so that they can perform the best?
You know, we've studied that for 35 years. We've done 8 rounds of pretty big data with now 120,000 respondents. And somebody said, well, it's self-report. It's not self-report. We've had a 360 where other people gauge your skills. Here's the change that we've seen in the last few years during COVID, and we're going to, I think, see it post-COVID. We've always defined a skill as an adjective and a noun: credible, activist, change agent, business partner. It's always a noun. It's a role. It's a state. What we're now defining is the skills as a verb. We need you to be, but we need you to accelerate business. Notice the verb: accelerate what? Business. To advance human capability, talent, organization, leadership. To foster collaboration. To maximize information. And to simplify complexity. So the shift we see, Ramesh, is we'd see the skills of HR kind of as a role, a noun. Here's what I do. Now we see it as a verb. It's a set of actions, and it's not the role you play, as much as the actions you take, no matter what role you're in. Accelerate, advance, foster, simplify, mobilize information. Those are the verbs we're seeing as part of the HR agenda.
Dave, I was going through some of your articles, and the especially article that you wrote about HR is not about HR. So it does include, apart from the employees and managers, it does include some customers, investors, stakeholders, and community outside. You said this in 2017, and now we are coming to 2024. Do you think would you like to go beyond this? Do you think we need to also add any another term as well, that this is also included into the HR part?
You know, it's a great question, and I love to look forward, but sometimes I got to drag the field. I love to go to an HR audience, and it would be fun to say to an audience, "You're in HR. Who's your customer?" And I still find that about 80% say, "My customer is the employee." No, your customer is the customer of the company. I used that example earlier. I met with these recently this week with these two heads of HR. What's the biggest challenge in your job? Hiring people, training people, compensation. The other HR person said, getting products that are innovative enough so our customers will buy them. I still think we're not there yet. That outside in logic, and some people say, well, that's marketing's job. No, that's our job. We want to help customers form a relationship with our company so that we gain their confidence and share. The same with investors. We introduced that in 2017. I think we're learning more the tools to do it. We've got some great analytics tools. If I were picking a fifth trend, it's getting analytics to help us make better decisions. And I think we're getting the analytics tools to help us do that. So I would hope that that agenda goes forward, that we in HR spend time with customers. We spend time with investors. The session I had this week, one of the sessions I had is, your company will spend time with investors, let's say stock owners. You'll have an investor call once a quarter for an hour. What is it we in HR are doing on that call? Now, the first comment is we don't have 45 minutes. We may have 10 to 20%. So we may have 6 to 12 minutes. But in those 6 to 12 minutes, what are we going to say to the investors that will give them more confidence in our future? We've talked to heads of HR, one of the large Fortune 50 companies in the US. She said, I don't attend any of those programs. And my comment was, sell short. That's a company in trouble. Others are saying, I share what the latest issue is. It could be a diversity program because that's topical. It could be hybrid work. I think we in HR need to have an integrated framework of what we bring to those investor calls. And we're getting better at it. We're doing analytics, we're doing research about how do we communicate to the investor and the customer the value that we create for them. So I think we're seeing progress in that domain. We're not there yet. I hope in 10 years, it's not the same question, but I hope we make some progress.
I think that is a good addition into this. And thank you so much, Dave, for accepting my invitation and being the part of this conversation. Such a lovely conversation, I think. So thank you so much, Dave.
Ramesh, thank you. Thank you for your magazine. Thank you for your creativity. Thank you for letting us look into your office as you look into my office and get a feel for who you are as a person. Thank you. Thank you.